In this movie I want to talk about importing AutoCAD files. When you do this in Vectorworks, you should always import an AutoCAD drawing into a blank Vectorworks drawing. You never import it into your working drawing because you can bring with it problems that will then be in your drawing forevermore. Let's begin by creating a new document and choose Create Blank Document. And I'll just resize that to fit into the movie window. And here's the blank document. In Vectorworks 2008, when you create a blank document, it will automatically come in with units set to millimeters. You can see here, and with decimal precision set to 1 for general display, and also dimension objects primary. So if you don't want to have those settings, then you need to change the units in that units dialog. So the next thing we do is to choose import, and you always use import single DXF DWG. The only time you use this option is if you were importing, say, a catalog of DXF DWG files from a manufacturer or something like that. But for survey drawings and consultants drawings and things like that, use import single DXF DWG. So we'll go to the file, and I've got an AutoCAD drawing here. I select that and click Open. Now, typically in Australia there are two kinds of drawings that you'll be importing. There'll be survey drawings, and typically surveyors work in meters, and there will be architectural drawings, and typically architects work in millimeters. Now, as a starting point, you'll sometimes find that this is set to determine automatically. Now, that will only work if the units are correctly set in the AutoCAD file, and this is quite frequently not the case. So you should always have a guess at what this should be rather than leaving it set to determine automatically. And as I said a moment ago, if it's an architectural drawing, choose millimeters. If it's a survey drawing, choose meters. This will get it right in about 95% of cases. If there's a problem, and you'll see with this particular file it is not the correct thing to choose, but I'm doing that on purpose, I'll show you how you can correct it. The next thing to do is to set the scale. If you leave this option set to fit to page, and this is the default setting, Vectorworks will look at the AutoCAD drawing, and that could be an expansive AutoCAD drawing with stuff drawn all over the place, and try and fit it into the drawing page size that you've got nominated. In this case, in the background here, this is actually an A4 page. So trying to fit an AO page or even bigger into this is just nonsensical, really. But there's nothing else that Vectorworks can do. So you've got to give it a bit of help here. Always choose this scale, and then choose what is a reasonable scale. Look, if it's a survey drawing, it's probably going to be 1 to 100, 1 to 200. If it's an architectural drawing, maybe 1 to 50, 1 to 100. So let's go with 1 to 200, and if you want to change that, you just click the scale button and click the option here that you want. And pretty well that's all you have to do. There's other options here, but these are normally set to the default settings that are recommended. There's one new option here in Vectorworks 2008, and that is one that allows you to add a prefix to all of the DXF layers, which will get converted into classes. So if you were going to merge all of the classes that are in the AutoCAD file, or all the AutoCAD layers which get converted into classes, then you could put a prefix here like, SUR for survey or something like that, and Vectorworks will add a hyphen, and this will then, all of the classes will be in one sub-menu. Now what I'm about to show you means that you actually don't have to do this, because the classes are not going to get brought into the Vectorworks drawing. But there are cases where you would, so that feature is there. Alright, so this is the main window we have to be concerned about. We've got it set up as we want. Let's click OK, and we'll go through and read all the entities in this drawing. Now sometimes AutoCAD drawings will be set up so that they have model space and paper space, and this equates to design layers and sheet layers. Now you can see that the drawing has actually appeared here, but sometimes you'll get the AutoCAD drawing appearing via viewports on a layout that could have any kind of name. The key here is that if you import an AutoCAD file and you don't see anything, or what you see doesn't seem to be editable, then come up to the drop-down menu here for layers and choose the layer that has the same name as the AutoCAD file you imported. And if you do that, then you're going to see the base data that was used to create the AutoCAD file. And let's zoom in here, and you can see that we've got this file imported. Now this looks pretty good, but the next thing that you must always do is to check that it is imported at the right scale. And you can see here in that yellow writing there's a dimension written against this line here, and the dimension is 20.115, and that's written on this boundary line from this point here. So if I click on that line, it should say 20.115 in the attributes palette, and it actually says it's got 3 zeros on the end of 20.115, which means that this drawing is not scaled correctly. In other words, it's 1,000 times too big, and that is because unusually this survey file was actually drawn in millimeters. Even though the dimensions are being displayed in meters, the drawing was drawn in millimeters. So there's two ways that you can fix this. You can re-import the file with the knowledge that you actually had to reset the meters to the units to millimeters in the import dialog, or you can rescale the drawing. So I think you understand what I mean. Let's just go back in here. If we go back to import, single DXF DWG, select the file again, click open. What I'm talking about here is that because this file was actually done in millimeters, in the import dialog, instead of choosing meters in that drop-down menu, we needed to choose millimeters. And we'll just wait for this to load. So here, instead of this being meters, if I imported this drawing as millimeters, and I'm not going to do it over the top of this one here, then it would have come in at the correct size. And notice that this number, when I changed that, actually became something a bit more reasonable than that than the other one that was there. But anyway, that's one way that we could resolve it. Just do the import again. But let's say that that there is you have followed all the instructions and you end up with measuring something and it's completely wrong. So how do you fix that? What you do is to go to the Modify menu and choose Scale Objects. Now, there's a new feature in Vectorworks 2008 which is this symmetric by distance, and this is what we're going to use. And you'll notice here that Scale Text is on and Entire Drawing is checked, and this is checked and I can't uncheck it because I have nothing selected in the drawing. So when you choose Scale Objects and you don't have anything selected in the drawing, it's automatically assumed that you want to rescale the entire drawing, and that includes the symbols and hatches and everything in the drawing, as opposed to just wanting to rescale a particular object. Now, we've got two fields here. We've got to put the current distance in here and the new distance in here. Now we know what the new distance is. The new distance is 20.115. So we can put 20.115 in there. And then we're going to measure the current distance, and I could type in that number that we read out here in the Object Info palette. But very conveniently, there's this little button here that allows me to actually draw a dimension over that line. So if I click this button, now I can come onto this point here, click here, and draw a line down to here. click again, and that distance is automatically entered in here. And obviously I should have done that before I put this one in, and this should read 2115. Okay, so the current distance is that, the new distance is that. We then click OK, and the drawing is going to rescale. I'll now do a fit to objects, and here's our drawing. Now let's go in on that same line and see how we're doing. Now remember, it's 20.115. Select the line, and it's 20.115. So always check the size of something by measuring a known distance on your imported file. If you just start drawing without doing that, you'll have all sorts of problems down the track when you try and print the drawing. Alright, so let's do a fit to objects again with nothing selected, and then we'll just save this file, save as, and we'll call this imported survey, and click Save. Now let's close that drawing down, and I'll now create a new drawing. So that's our imported file. It's imported into a separate Vectorworks drawing. I've closed that drawing down, and now we're going to create a link between our drawing and that drawing. So I'll choose New, and this time I'll use a document template, say this one here, and I'll just resize that page so that it fits in our movie. So now I want to get that other drawing displaying in my drawing, and the way we do that is we go to the View menu to Create Viewport, and I'm going to name this viewport Survey, and we have to choose a layer to create it on, and we'll create it on a design layer. And then I want to select the source. We click the Select Source button, and we choose External Document, and we need to click the button here to browse for that, and that file that we just created is this one here. This is the Vectorworks file that we imported the survey drawing into. So we click Open, and the only option that you have to worry about, or other option you have to worry about in here, is whether or not you're going to save the referenced cache to disk. What this means is if I check this box, then all of the information from this file is going to get embedded in my file, and however big that other file was, let's say it's 10K in size or 10 megabytes in size, then if I save the reference cache to disk, that 10 megabytes is going to be added to my file. And I don't necessarily have to have access to that other file if I want to open my drawing. Okay, this automatically update out of date reference refers to the fact that because these drawings are linked, if I go and make some changes to that other file that I imported, then obviously I'm going to have to update from those changes, and I can either do that automatically by having this checked, or I can do it manually when I want to. So if you're only working on your desktop computer and you haven't got a laptop, so in other words you'll always have access to that survey drawing, then there's no need to save the reference cache to disk. That way you will require that file to be accessible when you open your drawing. In other words, you'll have to have access to that other imported AutoCAD file, but this file that we're working on now won't be made any bigger or very much bigger by the fact that we've got this reference there. Okay, so we're ready to go. We'll click OK, and let's just click on Layers. And that other file had two layers in it. One was the site plan layer and one was our original design layer. There was nothing on that layer, so we can make that layer invisible in this design layer viewport. And let's go ahead and click OK. And here is our survey drawing in our file. Now it's in a viewport. that's referenced. So it's reading information from that other drawing. Now let's just double check our active layer scale here, and it's set to 1 to 50, so probably it would be more realistic to set it to say 1 to 200. And I'll just zoom out here and position this over our page. That page outline there is A3, by the way. So if I do a fit to page, you can see here that we've got our survey drawing. Now let's say that you only need this part of the survey drawing here. So what you can do is to double click this, choose to add a crop, click OK, and take, say, the rectangle tool or round rectangle tool or any of these closed surface objects, the polygon tool, and just draw a rectangle around the area that you need, and you'll see the rest of the drawing gets cropped away. Now the rectangle has a line weight that you can see there. If you don't want to actually see that rectangle, you can just choose none from the attributes palette here, and the crop line will disappear. We're inside the viewport crop now. If we click the exit viewport crop button, we've now got a cropped viewport. If I needed to rotate this, you'll see that I've got a rotation angle here. I can do that, or I can use the rotate tool here to rotate this if I need to. Now, under advanced properties here, we have the ability to have black and white only turned on. If I turn that on and preview that, then the AutoCAD file is going to switch to black and white only. And you may or may not want to have that, but that option is available. And the other thing you might want to do if you're going to overlay information is to tone this down a bit. If you click on the layers option here, the layers button, there's 3 columns here under visibility. This is visible, invisible, and grayed. So if I gray the site plan layer and click OK, you'll see that this drawing actually grays out in the background. And that level of grayness can be controlled when you print the drawing. You'll see here in the print dialog under Vectorworks that you have a grey level and it's currently set to 60%. So if you wanted this to be darker when printed or very, very faint when printed, then you can alter this percentage here. Now, one of the really important things about this process of bringing an AutoCAD file into your drawing is that in your class list in this drawing, none of the AutoCAD layers have been brought in. So you have a completely separate class list from all of the classes that are in that AutoCAD file. You can access the classes in the AutoCAD file by clicking the Classes button here, and here are all of the AutoCAD classes. Now, you obviously are not going to know which ones turn on and off various things, but let me demonstrate by just turning off a bunch of these classes here. And let's preview that, and you'll see that various things disappeared from this drawing. So I can actually control the visibility of objects in the drawing. Now if we look through the classes here, let's try and do it a bit more logically. You might say, well, I don't want to see their lawn, I don't want to see their landscape notes, I don't want to see their hatching, and so on. Don't want to see their plants, and preview that, and you'll see that gradually you can clear out what you're seeing here, assuming that, let's turn off site vegetation, preview that. So gradually things are clearing up on this drawing here. Now if you need to be very specific and know what classes are what, then you can always open up this file that you imported and check what classes you need to turn on or off, or even do that as part of the initial process when you import that file. So we've had a bit of a stab at the classes here, but I can see if you're going to do a landscape overlay on this that you probably don't want to see some or all of these trees, or maybe you do. Maybe you don't want to see the text here for the RLs and so on. So how are you going to find out what things you need to turn on or off? Well, in the window menu, because we have a referenced file here and it's this imported survey, we can actually open the imported survey by choosing that from the window menu, and then we have the actual survey drawing which is going to open here. And then you can come in here and click on various objects and look at the class that things are in. You'll see here there's a class called lawn, there's a class called site vegetation, there's a class called annotation. So assuming that the drawing has been set up reasonably well, this is a plant. Now when something comes up as a symbol, then you might have to actually enter the symbol to see what class it's been, the insides of the symbol are in, and you can do that by double clicking. And then I go into the symbol, and this symbol is still in the none class, so it actually hasn't been classed. And that's what I was referring to before. You know, it's all well and good to give you a file that has this wonderful class structure, but very frequently the class structure hasn't been adhered to, and there will be things in the file that are that you don't need, so, or that are not classed properly. Of course, the other thing that you can do is to just delete things that you don't want to see in your drawing just by selecting them and pressing delete, and that will delete them out of the AutoCAD file. And I'll go ahead and do this, and then you'll see the results of what I'm doing. I'm just randomly deleting things here, but you can see that I've deleted a whole bunch of stuff from here. If I now save this file, then let's close it down, and that stuff that I deleted is still going to be here until I do an update. And the way that you can do an update, so in other words, the file that this viewport is referencing, we know is now different to what's being displayed here. If we open the organization dialog, you'll see in here there is a tab called References, and here is the file that we're referencing, and you can see it's all in red and it's saying, look, it's out of date. So if I click the select the file in the list here, click Update, and it's now, Vectorworks is now reading the latest information from that file. This is now turned into black and it's up to date, and if I click OK, you'll see that that stuff that we deleted from the AutoCAD file has been removed. So you can either get rid of stuff you don't need by deleting it from the original file, or by turning the classes on or off. So that should give you a bit of an idea and a head start on how to get AutoCAD information into your drawings.